Yo, welcome back to the Transfer Portal CFB podcast presented by No Context CFB. Week 6 is in the books. It's going too fast. I know I pretty much say it every week, but it's truly mind-boggling how quick this sport tends to go by every single year. I guess it really is true. You're having fun, time be flying by. That's word for word the old quote that they said once upon a time. I got Brian with me to recap things this week. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing a lot better now than I was about 30 minutes ago. As you can see with what I'm wearing. So the Braves did win tonight, so I'm in a lot better mood than I would have been otherwise. So I'm ready to talk some college football. But yeah, man, it's going by way too quickly. It kind of it took me aback that it was week 6, and we're like, man, we're already halfway through the season. For a lot of teams, it's ridiculous. But hey, we're trending along, and we're having more fun as we go along.
We are, man. It's just it's unbelievable. And shout out Conference USA for all the Fun Prince USA. I told them like, hey, y'all could use Fun Prince USA if you want for these weeknight games. They haven't yet, but they've put out some really good ball games, and that continued this week, starting with another really strong showing from Jacksonville State. New Mexico State flexed their muscles a bit against the inferior FIU. Liberty played a really tough, close game against Sam Houston, who still doesn't have a win. But week after week, we're seeing the Bearcats improve, play good football, and they're going to get their first win in the FBS soon enough. I really thought they almost had that one at the end, didn't get it, and then to close out Thursday night, Western Kentucky boat race Louisiana Tech in the first half. Things get weird in Ruston, as Scott Van Pelt preaches. Louisiana Tech got that game close late, but Malachi Corley, a masterclass of a performance.
Yeah, no, it was those midweek games are a lot of fun always, even if just fun to have football on your TV and you don't have to kind of you know kind of bridges the gap a little bit between Saturdays. So we're in the midst of 50 consecutive days of football on TV, which is a lot of fun. Between NFL and college football. So yeah, those midweek games, they have been a lot of fun. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes we just watch because it's on. But we've been very blessed to have some really good games. And Sam Houston State, like you mentioned, I think it to be competitive, is always the first when FCS team makes a step up. Being competitive is always that first ring to kind of get to, and they're doing that. So like you said, I have no doubt that they'll win their first game soon, and they have a lot to be proud of for sure.
Yeah, like they held a really explosive Air Force offense I've fallen in love with this year. They held them to 13 points. Like that Sam Houston team is they are a very good like for first year FBS standards. Like they're competitive, they're feisty, they play extremely good defense. The offense just hasn't translated, and I feel for Bearcat. I feel for the program and their fans right now because they have to see what James Madison did entering, who was a fellow, FCS powerhouse and dynasty. And then you look at Jacksonville State, who's had spurts of success here and there, either very large or they're kind of back down to earth in the FCS and they're mediocre, but they've had plenty of success in the FCS. And instantly in the same conference, in that Conference USA, Jacksonville State has translated to success. And we're going to see them get to play Liberty in just like 24 hours. So I cannot wait to see that game. But you were talking about midweek games, and sometimes you just watch it because it's on. Well, that wasn't really the case for Oklahoma State. Kansas State, that was a decent game. Really poor showing from Kansas State. Nebraska, Illinois, genuinely could be the worst college football game that has been played since the inception of the forward pass.
Yeah, that wasn't fun. It wasn't
No,
fun,
it was fun. It
but
was
not in a
just
good
awful.
way.
Yes,
It
it
wasn't
was
fun it was
terrible.
fun, but not in a good way. Yeah.
No, if you want an accurate representation of what football looked like in 1952, turn on the replay of Nebraska Illinois from Friday night 2023, whatever day it was, October 6th. Terrible, terrible stuff. Nebraska seemingly fumble. They lead the country in fumbles. I think no surprise. They fumble, it seems, every other possession. The second half drive chart in that half, aside from Nebraska's field goal, oh my gosh, a disaster. You go back to the first drive of the game, Illinois is on the 1 yard line, gets stuffed. Just awful, awful football on display there. Want to move on to Saturday?
Yeah, that's where the cheese in this weekend was Saturday. What a slate of games it was for sure.
I'll hand it off to you with your Georgia Bulldogs because it was, as I put it, the first game all season where Georgia ate all the food on their plate, even the peas. They ate the peas.
Yeah, they really did, and it was interesting because, like you said, for throughout the season, through the first 5 games of the year, they kind of just something just seemed off. Something just didn't really.
Hangover, perhaps.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And finally, it seemed like everything kind of just came together. The offense came together. The defense came together and played really good football. Brought Carson Beck. It seems like he's been kind of been leashed along throughout the first few weeks. Mike Bobo and Kirby Smart not really trusting him to make those throws downfield, at least consistently. And then I think last week in the fourth quarter against Auburn, those last couple of drives where it led to touchdowns and it led to scores, and for them to come back in that game, you really saw Carson Beck really grow up and make those throws. It definitely helps to have somebody like Brock Bowers to make those throws too, which is a big part of the offense for sure. But you saw a lot of guys make plays. Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint, and Rara Thomas, make great catches, great touchdown catches. But yeah, Carson Beck's training wheels are officially off, and I can't wait to see him explode for the rest of the season. And I mean, for a large part, you saw that Carson Beck wasn't very good, and then you look at this the passing yards in college football. He's fourth in passing yards in the country, and only behind Michael Penix, who's probably on his way to a Heisman Trophy. Shedeur Sanders, who obviously they've been airing it out all year, and so he's fourth. So it definitely changes the narrative a lot for Georgia for sure.
Yeah, like so I had Georgia number. I moved them down to 3 because I thought it was fair with the lackluster play. I shouted it though when we had Kyron on for our week 6 preview, and I shouted on the week 5 recap. Was very, very impressed by the win against Auburn. They did everything right when they were facing adversity. The second half adjustments were truly amazing. Like they were getting gashed on the edge in the quarterback run game all game. Like they fixed that stuff, and that's why I want to see. I thought moving them down to 3 though was fair. I've moved them back up to 2 because I've been waiting for a performance like this. And albeit it's against the Kentucky team that had no business being ranked, it still has no business being ranked. But AP voters don't really understand the concept of a good college football team and what should have you ranked. That Kentucky offense, aside from Ray Davis and a couple good receivers and Brown and Key, it's an abomination to SEC football. It's a terrible offense. So really good and glad that Georgia went out there, survived a few early scares with lengthy drives and bad penalties from Kentucky, whatever. And I just put their foot on the gas and annihilated them. Like that's what they needed to do. And it's been a long time coming for not only Georgia to do that, but also Michigan, who we'll talk about next. 2 other things: Kamari Lassiter is just elite. He's just elite. And Brock Bowers, if you have a Heisman vote and you're not using at minimum a top 5 vote on Brock Bowers, your voting needs to be taken away because you don't understand what the award that encapsulates the best player in college football. You don't understand the meaning of that. You don't deserve to have a vote. Like I'm just going to be very straight up and honest. If you're not voting Brock Bowers 5th at minimum, you're out of your mind and you don't respect the sport and you don't care about the sport like the rest of us do.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a recruit, Knight Carr, who's one of the top receiving recruits in the country, who decommitted from Georgia last week, and he just committed to Miami. And he had a deleted tweet on Saturday that said they throw to the tight ends 100 times a game, and like I'm like kind of like a subtweet towards Georgia, like they throw to their tight end 100 times a game. Like, why would I want to be a part of that? It kind of, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was kind of in that sense. And I'm like, it's Brock Bowers. Like, don't. It's like it's not like this is an everyday thing. For a while, it was the opposite. It's like they don't throw to tight ends, and it's Brock Bowers. It's not like this is it's an anomaly, and it's if you don't throw to Brock Bowers, there's definitely a problem. But
Yeah, you
you
have a
can't really
cheat
fault
code. You
Georgia.
might as well use it.
Exactly. You can't really fault Georgia and Mike Bobo and Carson Beck to throw to their unicorn. And that word gets thrown out a lot. I remember Kyle Pitts being considered a unicorn because of his ability. And I mean, I don't know if it's my biases, but I think Brock Bowers is kind of that it's next level to what Kyle Pitts has done. I think he evolved. He's taken that to the next level, and it's just a wreck, every single. It's a wrecking ball every single
Yeah,
game, and
I think Brock has way more of an all-around game that is a lot more
yeah,
enticing to plenty more NFL front offices. And we'll see what happens with draft capital because I think investing into a tight end, top five like the Falcons did with Pitts, I think it's ridiculous. Because you're not spoon feeding that tight end with peppering him with targets every week and making him the focal point in the offense, unless it's like Travis Kelce, who's obviously a layer on pick and just plays in the whole draft tight ends late thing, just like people want to do with running backs. So I don't know what Bauer's draft capital will be, but I mean, we'll see. He'll be a dynamic player in the NFL, and that recruit, I can't fault him for saying that either. Because if that's the
yeah,
product I'm seeing every Saturday, and I'm a wide receiver that wants plenty of targets, probably gonna go somewhere else to benefit me the most. Even though it's Brock Bowers and it's probably not going to sustain when the next crop of tight ends comes in. But
yeah.
I
And he's
can't
gone after
fault him.
this year too. So
Yeah, so I can't fault the kid. Can't fault Georgia for just getting Brock the ball a lot. Continuing with the top 25, Michigan just put a whooping on Minnesota. That Minnesota team is a whole lot. They're very bad. I did not think that they would be this bad. And much like I did credit Georgia, Michigan, back to back games now at Nebraska, at Minnesota. I don't care who you're playing. Those are two road games. That's the best, 120 minutes that Michigan has been able to put together this season. Their competition, albeit it's Nebraska and Minnesota, it's still a step up from what they were playing the first four games. And Michigan has risen up to the occasion and just said, well, we're going to put our foot on the gas and dominate these teams. Like, we're not here to mess around. We're not here to play around. It's 60 minutes of elite, high caliber football. And it's good to see Georgia and Michigan do that when they hadn't pretty much all September. So credit to Michigan for just proving that you're better than everyone.
yeah, yeah. And I mean they're one of the best teams in the country. And it's hard to for anybody, same with Georgia, when you're not playing, these types of teams, when you're playing the Ball States and the Tennessee Martins of the college football world, it's kind of hard to really gauge, your team, and it's kind of hard to consider somebody the best team in the country when they're playing those types of teams. But yeah, I mean, Michigan's definitely showed up that they're one of the best teams in the country. And shout out, I mean, JJ McCarthy, I think, has definitely matured a lot as a quarterback this season. I feel like last year he was good. He obviously it led them to the college football playoff, but I think JJ McCarthy wasn't kind of the quarterback that he was capable of being last year. I think this year he's definitely taken that next step, and he's shown he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country by far. I mean, there's probably I don't know if there's two or three quarterbacks better than him so far this year. I mean, the obvious ones, like Michael Penix and Cam Ward was been up there, but he's kind of he's they lost this week, and but yeah, JJ McCarthy has matured a lot. He's gotten a lot better as a quarterback, and I think that's going to be the difference for Michigan this year, finally getting over that hump and not losing to TCU in the semifinals. So yeah, shout out to JJ McCarthy for sure. He's definitely showing he's very capable of leading this Michigan team very, very far.
Yeah, I think he is very capable of leading it. I don't think the Michigan offense really asks much of their quarterback to go out and do like crazy, crazy things anyway. I think it's more of a game manager role and just make the right throws. I don't think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Like, I don't know. Like, I saw other people tweeting out and was like, is he top 15? Honestly, dude, I think I could name 15 quarterbacks better than JJ that could. But I don't know. Like, I just don't see him as an NFL guy either. Like, I think he's a career backup, and that's good. That's good money. But if we want, I think I could name 15 better quarterbacks right now.
I think talent wise, sure, yeah, I think there are better quarterbacks out there, but I think in the situation that he's in, and the maturity that he showed, and just the ability that he has to kind of, like you said, game manage. And I feel like if it does come out, if it does turn into a shootout where he does have to make plays, I think he's more than capable of doing that. I don't know how much you ask of him, but I don't know if I would trust more, 15 quarterbacks to lead my team right now. I mean, it is early, right? Overreactions are rampant, this early in the season or halfway through this. Damn, it's not even early in the season anymore. It's halfway through the season now. But yeah, I do think that he's definitely night and day compared to last season, in at least from what I've seen so far. But the competition hasn't been that great, so we definitely need to see how he needs to have like a Carson Beck moment
Yeah, I mean
against.
they play a 2 game schedule, so we'll
Yeah,
see how he fares against Penn State and Ohio State. I won't. I'll save you all the time of not naming 15 quarterbacks that I think are better. Maybe I overshot. Maybe he's only like 10, 11, 12, whatever. I'll come up with a list after when we're done with this because we've got Red River to talk about next. Oklahoma, Texas, as always, aside from 2022, a banger. Our good buddy Adam. We don't know. We haven't heard from him since Texas lost this game. This was, in all honesty, I think this is my favorite game of the season so far. I thought both teams played very, very quality games. I thought there was some coaching. I thought Venables, I think, did an excellent job. Sark, I think, left a bit to be desired. I think he botched the end of the game.
yeah,
But all in all, like, it's Red River, man. And this was it was dang good, and yeah, it's not gonna like change. It's gonna be SEC or whatever, but it just kind of makes me sad to think about as a SEC game next year. It's gonna whack.
yeah, yeah. It definitely has a little special. It's a little sprinkle of specialness to it that it's a Big 12, and it's played at noon, and it's not going to change much. But usually the big SEC games are on at like 2:30 or something like that, which it's arbitrary, but it's a big deal for college football fans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, yeah, I think it was Dylan Gabriel. He wasn't able to play in that game last year, due to his injury. And I know that he kind of had this game circled in his calendar all season since last season, not being able to play, and the way that game turned out. And he definitely stepped up to the moment. We kind of talked about, not everybody, but, we talked about Texas being kind of that team out of the Big 12 all season, and Oklahoma just kind of just sneaking, kind of just there on the back burner for all season long. And especially after the win against Alabama, Texas was catapulted to, that next level. And here comes Oklahoma out of nowhere, from the top rope, just shocking everybody, and winning this football game. You mentioned it, Steve Sarkisian's decision at the end of the game to not kind of burn more clock there. He was snapping the ball early in the play clock and not really. I saw a breakdown. I forgot who it was, but somebody had done a breakdown. It's like if they had just snapped the ball with 10 seconds left in the play clock every single play of that series, they would have kicked the game-winning field goal last time expired, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But
Exactly.
they went really quickly, and it left a lot of time for Oklahoma. And I mean, all game there was very little resistance on both sides, um, defensively for a good chunk of that game. So you almost kind of expected Oklahoma to march down the field. It was a lot. It was a little surprising how quickly and how effortlessly they did it. But the writing was on the wall once Oklahoma got the ball back. I didn't think they were going to struggle too much to move the ball downfield, but it was a little surprising how quickly they did it. I mean, there was almost no resistance by Texas defense on that drive.
So Texas gets the ball 27-27 with like 4:40 left, and they give the ball back with like a minute 17 left.
Yeah,
That's not great. Texas
yeah,
started with the ball in their own 13. They, like you said, if Sark just educated the team or whatever, the Ewers and friends to start snapping the ball with like 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds off, whatever, you're walking out there with a game winning field goal, you think. And now Sark did say, like, I want to score a touchdown. Hey man, I have no beef with that. I love that. I love trying to put the ball in the hands of your offense to win the game and close it out instead of a kicker. I'm very outspoken on that. I completely agree with that philosophy. However, you still kind of could have done it without, well, with milking a little cloth. Like you could have done that. And
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think they really botched that game. But at the end of the day, I think both teams played a really good football. It was hard to it's hard to come away with that game like feeling any bad about these teams. I thought that there were dangerous overreactions to Texas losing this game with them kind of free falling in the polls for a lot of people. I think I took them from 4 to 8. I think that's very fair. Oklahoma for me went from 15 to 7. I think that that's very fair as well. The Big 12 coming into the season, I thought it was Texas and a whole bunch of mediocrity. I thought
yep.
Texas Tech would possibly ascend to that second best team. It's clear as day they're not. Me and a lot of other people were kind of skeptical of Vanderbilt's and what he had been building at Oklahoma. Well, we're all wrong, and we could admit that. We could credit Oklahoma and Brett for what he's doing. They're an excellent team this season. I flirted with the idea of playing them up all the way in number 5. Like I think that they are that good, and they've been this consistent no matter the competition that they have faced. I remember the game against SMU, which was 14-11 for a little bit. Oklahoma wins it 28-11. They played such great defense against that SMU offense, which yeah, TCU did as well. But in a game where nothing was really humming for the Oklahoma offense, they had to really lean on their defense to stop a potent passing attack led by Preston Stone. They did a really good job at that. And I feel like week after week, Oklahoma's just playing really impressive football on both ends of it. They are a complete team that is well coached. They know their identity, and they're just going to go out there play Oklahoma football every week, no matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're Texas. It doesn't matter if you're Arkansas State. They're going to try and pummel you and come out with a W, and I respect the heck out of that. And I can't wait to see how they fare the rest of the season because the rest of their schedule, like I said, Big 12, pretty mediocre. The rest of the schedule, kind of Charmin.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I mean the same can be said about Texas as well, is where this was kind of like their biggest test, and this happens to Texas. It feels like they do this every year, where they have a big win, kind of like a statement win, and the whole it gets thrown out. It's Texas back, Texas is back, Texas is back, and then they have a game like this where they lose a game where on paper they're not supposed to lose, and obviously Oklahoma has shown that they are a legitimate team to be reckoned with in the Big 12 and in the college football scene. I don't know if it's playoff worthy. I mean, maybe a undefeated Oklahoma team gets sneaks in, but there's a lot of good teams for the rest of the country. So that's a conversation for a different day. But just looking at I still can't get over that last drive by Oklahoma. They
It
got
was
the ball.
immaculate.
They got the ball back with a minute and 17 seconds left at the 25, and they took 4 plays. First down, 11 yards. First down, 16 yards. First down, 28 yards. Pass interference for 15 yards. 3-yard rush by Dylan Gabriel, and then a 3-yard pass for touchdown with 15 seconds left.
Which was one heck of a throw and play
That
by
was
Dylan. Pressure in his
he.
face, just yeah, it was really good
No,
stuff.
yeah, no, no fear in Dylan Gabriel there.
He's
He
had
sat in there.
incredible poise since his early days at UCF. Like he's one heck of a player. I'm glad that he got his moment like that. It was well deserved. Hey man, I don't know. Like, it's crap.
It was a great game.
Oklahoma's been dang
Hell of a game.
impressive, and I
Yeah.
look next on our list. In years past, I've been told that I'm like some Ohio State homer. I have biases towards like platforming Ohio State. And now I'm being told I'm the biggest hater on Twitter, the biggest Ohio State hater on Twitter. So that just leads me to believe, well, I really do keep it real no matter what. Well, I mean, let's talk about Ohio State, Maryland, which Maryland, the noise about them being ranked because they were 5-0. Much like Kentucky, absolute garbage. Who had Maryland played this season? Because I can tell you off the top of my head, they played 3 of the worst teams in the country. They played Virginia, they played Indiana, and they played Charlotte. Stinky, stinky, stinky. Who are the other 2 teams that they beat? Michigan State. Do we want to clap it up for them? I really don't. Do we want to clap it up for them being Towson? I really don't. Maryland hadn't played anyone, and yet still they took it to Ohio State in that first half. And then as the game wore on, Ohio State's talent gap really just explodes there, and they win. And their defense is elite. I give them credit for the defense. The defense is masterful. Knowles is doing such an incredible job, and people that are talking about Knowles not being that guy after last season, completely uneducated on the sport. The defense is why I trusted most coming into the season. The issues that I have with Ohio State are the same issues that Ohio State diehard fans are yelling at their TVs every single Saturday. So just because I say it out loud why I don't like Ohio State doesn't really make sense to bash me for it when Ohio State fans are doing the same thing. They're just not. They just don't want to see their team ranked lower. The offensive line is a mess. An absolute mess. It is. Donovan Jackson's taken a big step back. Simmons is not a good player. Their offensive line is just a mess, flat out. The Emeka Egbuka dealing with injuries, that's never good. Cade Stover seems to be always be open, so that's good for Farmer Gronk. Marvin Harrison Jr. though, Ryan Day, as we know, has said we need to be creative in how to get him the ball. I just think that's a load of dookie. That is one of the most idiotic things I could ever hear. He is top 2 player in the sport. You don't need to get creative to find ways to get him the ball, and we saw that on Saturday when McCord decided, all right, I'm just gonna do me and throw Marvin the ball. It worked out pretty well and got Ohio State going until they got inside the 15 and Ryan Day imploded with play calling. Ryan Day's play calling is an absolute joke. Too many swings and screens, too much just stretch run plays. Like it's really bad. And for sorry for taking so long on this, and I'll get to you. For everyone that wants to bash me for the Ohio State stuff, maybe watch this team play a 60-minute game or just watch the offense, and you'll kind of realize why I'm low on them. There is nothing redeeming. There is no redeeming quality about this offense except for Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyle McCord when he's able. The talent is there. Sorry, the talent is there. The play calling, the situations that they're playing them are not. Marvin's really the only one immune to it, but he doesn't get the ball because of Ryan. So people have this team ranked number 2 in the country.
No,
that's obscene.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The thing with Ohio State, it's like they remind me a lot about Clemson last year, where they were undefeated for a while, but you know they weren't as good as they should be, or they weren't that good. But they kept winning games kind of just they got out of
that kind of program.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they're able to squeak by. I mean, we saw what they did with Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. They squeaked. Squeaked out. I don't know how close you can get to squeaking a win out of that. And then they're just kind of just been I mean, every week when you turn on an Ohio State game, it's close, it seems for a long time. And then, eventually their talent overpowers the opposing team and they win by 20 points. But I mean, they're just nothing. They just don't. It doesn't move me as a team this year. Like I said, it's kind of like Clemson last year, where they were kind of just pedaling along undefeated, and eventually they lost a game, and after that, it was just kind of over at that point. They probably, they might still win. They still have to play Penn State. Obviously they still have to play Michigan. There's a lot of teams that could definitely take advantage and expose this Ohio State team of who they are. And it's, another comparison to Clemson too is, there's a difference when you don't have an elite quarterback, playing that position for you. We saw what's been on Clemson without Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson. We see what's going on at Ohio State without Justin Fields and CJ Stroud. Kyle McCord, I think he's very capable, but he's no CJ Stroud. And I think I feel like Ryan Day also doesn't really trust him very much to throw the ball downfield. And I don't know. It's just something weird. There's something going on in that program, something weird, and it's just a funky time right now for Ohio State. And either they're going to figure it out, or they're going to lose some games and just fall out of obscurity, or into obscurity. So we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely weird to see.
Yeah, so I want having a Ohio State diehard brother. I watch Ohio State pretty much every snap every week, and that So I think I have a pretty good read on this team. And of course, in comparison to the past teams that Ohio State has had in the last few seasons, where I think as a quarterback, I think McCord is just like, I think he's fine. I think he's very capable. I think he could be a good game manager. I don't think he's set up in a great, spot to succeed, because I think his play caller is sabotaging him. I truly do, and I know Ohio State fans will agree to that. Um, I think McCord had Marvin for like a 90-ish yard touchdown, whatever. And he underthrew him, and Marvin has to slow down and catch it. Whatever it happens, I get it. It's not all going to be perfect, but I mean, Marvin Harrison Sr. was on Instagram, man, and put out Lincoln Kindhole's jersey, the true freshman QB3 that I predicted would get playing time this season. Like, that's Marvin Harrison Jr.'s dad doing that during a game. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's just not good. And I feel
Yeah.
bad because I want to give McCord the benefit of the doubt. And I'll say this kid is clutch. If every single game was 2 minutes left, tie game, or you're down one, McCord would be throwing like 88%, 8 touchdowns, no picks, cool as a cucumber. He is poised. He is calm in that crunch time. I love it. But you're Ohio State. You shouldn't be in those situations. We've only seen it
Yeah.
once too, and he looked immaculate. You just got to find it at some other point. You have to figure out how to mesh with your receivers, how to gel, how to overcome the ineptitude of your play caller. And the best Ohio State has looked all season was against Western Kentucky. They got Western Kentucky made that a very close game in like the earliest middle of the second quarter, and then one deep pass to Marvin Harrison Jr., just straight line speed, let him win, beat coverage, like one throw to him, and McCord found his groove, and the offense found their groove. It's like, if I'm Ryan Day, call up some deep balls to Marvin Harrison Jr. early in a game. Get McCord in rhythm. Get him getting some mojo, man. Like, golly,
Yeah.
we're not gonna. I know we got a lot of other stuff to talk about, so we'll move on, and we could go quickly through, like, for Florida State, Virginia Tech. No offense to Florida State and Virginia Tech here. I don't think there's much to talk about. I think it was a pretty simple game. Florida State again flirted with, not disaster, but they didn't put their foot on the gas and blow out the team that they should have. And the final score suggests they did, but they really didn't. That game was closer than it should have been for the majority of it. I want to credit Florida State secondary because I think they stepped up in minimal reps against the pass. I think that they played well this week.
Yeah.
SC Arizona, a wacky triple OT game that once again calls for whining. Why the 2-point off is the most idiotic thing I think that we've seen in sports. It is so lame.
I what I hate about sports in general, I feel like there's always a moment or one game or one thing that happens, and people over and the league or people or fans they overreact, or they try to overcorrect it, and they make a rule change that doesn't make sense. And this is all stemming from that 7 overtime game between LSU and A&M in 2000, was it 8-17 it was. That's all this the when is how long how often does that happen? It doesn't happen often. It happened once every 5 years that we get a
It's
game
like
like
once
that.
in a millennium.
Yeah, and exactly right. We had that game, and there's an overcorrection that happens, and then this is what we get. And it's done a lot more harm than it does good, I think, and it's terrible. And you know, luckily for USC, it kept them alive in the it kept them undefeated, and it kept them alive in the playoff race. But they had no business being triple overtime winners against Arizona. Like, that
Mm-mm.
defense is atrocious. That this triple overtime rule, you know, has taken the focus away from this atrocious defense. I think, the
Yeah,
conversation on it is definitely different
there,
if they
there
lose this game.
there is no reason for. I mean, it's been like this since last season. I mean, it's been like this since the OU days. Every day that Alex Grinch is employed as defensive coordinator of your football program is a mistake, and it gets it to become 100 times more the mistake week by week by week. There is no reason for him to be the defensive coordinator at a major program. Like, let alone, it's not a group of five. Like, it's USC, who has national championship hopes, who has the player to do it, the best player in the sport, one of the best players Caleb Williams that we have seen in quite some time. He is inordinate. And you have that level of defense. It's a disgrace to not only your program, but the sport, man. For that guy to be employed week to week don't make any sense. The math ain't math, and simple as that. And know what's really big here too for USC? Zach Branch ain't been playing because he's been banged up. He is a true freshman, and the fact that true freshman, how special he is, that he affects your offense this much when these receivers don't look to be in sync with Caleb Williams, that's an issue. Because SC's got like 29 guys in the wide receiver room that are well worth playing time, and none of them are better than the true freshman from Vegas. That's insane to think about. If they don't have, I mean, like Caleb Williams just bailed them out of this game. The triple OT thing is an absolute joke. It only favors the team with more talent at the end of the day. Jed Fish, I love Fish. He had a really bad quote in this game. He said after a game, he said, even he like messed up the overtime rules or whatever, which, hey, I don't like put fault on them. I kind of get it. It's very confusing and weird and annoying and lame, and you could easily look past it. You're not in these situations much. But he said, yeah, even if I knew about the 2 point off and everything, I still wouldn't have gone for two after the first overtime.
Yeah.
Bad. That's not good. You are every single time that a major underdog is out there. It is same with Colorado State. You score a touchdown first overtime. Now you're down one. Go for two. What do you have to lose? It is better to lose putting your offense out there, game on the line on a 2 point conversion at the end of the first overtime, than going to a third overtime and losing on a 2 point off on the play that you probably would have ran in that overtime anyway, or you would have ran.
You're going to go for two anyway.
So yes, eventually you're going for two. So run your best play. And know what's more idiotic too? SC didn't run their best. They ran that. Caleb Williams makes an insane play, and Brian Rice has to catch the ball. But at the end of the first overtime, or sorry, the end of the second overtime, where the SC runs just a straight boot where it's really KO has two guys to throw to, and incredible play, and it's just a boot. Like you're rolling out right. Sorry, you're rolling out right, and it takes away so much of the field, and it's just putting so much more pressure on these kids than there needs to be. The ball has to be caught. Whatever. They come out in the third overtime and 2 point off. They run an immaculate play where it's simply this. We have Caleb Williams. Nobody in your defense is near as talented as him. So it's stacked to the left. It's like a monster set with like a few linemen and on there and a bunch of guys to the left. So it isolates, basically just isolate Caleb Williams on the right side of the field. It's just basically we have the numbers for blockers. It's basically Caleb. If one guy gets past, just beat him. He does. He gets a fine. How is that not your play at the end of the second OT?
Yeah.
It was a foolproof play. And Jake, like, I feel bad for Arizona because their kids bowed their butts off in this game. Tatoria McMillan was excellent. Jacob Cowing, for people that keep telling me that he's too small to play in the NFL, just stop talking. Literally stop talking. That kid is every bit of an NFL player as Zay Flowers was, as other kids before them, like Hollywood Brown, have been. Jacob Cowing's legit. Fafita too, coming in there, true, just young kid, freshie playing like that in the Coliseum. Excellent. Arizona really deserved that win, and people need to realize this is why people were so in on SC coming into the season. Doesn't make sense because this is exactly what the expectation was: an awful defense.
Yeah, and they're gonna face a team that's a lot more talented, defensively. That's gonna make that one stop that they need to make to stop USC if they don't fix their defense in a hurry. I mean, with Colorado last week, there was no business letting Colorado back in that game.
No.
And you saw what Colorado, they started making those stops. Look what happened. They ran out of time. Yeah, they flirted with disaster, and eventually they're going to play a team that will be able to make that stop. You
And
know,
that's the
whether it,
bad thing too, because their first half of the schedule is now concluded with the Arizona win. It's like that is such an easy first 6 games. The back
yeah,
six, I mean, you're starting off with Notre Dame, who's got some salt in their mouths right now. They're very angry, and then you play Utah, and then you still have Washington, Oregon, UCLA. Like, good luck, have fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of danger in the waters coming up for USC.
Danger looming for SC indeed. That's why I had them entering the season as a 9-3 team, and I believed after our first few weeks. I was like, all right, you don't really care for a defense still, but the offense still going to be scoring 90 a game, and just no. They've got major issues. Fire Alex Grinch. I know you've only got like 20ish minutes left, so we'll kind of move along quickly here. Louisville, Notre Dame, best performance of Louisville season, bar none. And I think it goes without saying that a lot of us overlooked a true letdown spot for the Irish here, coming off the emotional win against the emotional loss against Ohio State that they should have won, coming off the emotional win against Duke that they
They
should
should
have
have lost.
lost. Now you go out there and just really bad brand of football against Louisville. Got smoked.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, what kind of turn of a season for Notre Dame? I mean, 2 weeks ago they were a second away from being in the playoff contention and kind of solidifying themselves with that signature win against Ohio State. That goes away, and immediately they go to Duke, and it's just they play with fire all game. They had no business winning that game either. A lot of lapses mentally on defense by Duke that last series, and then I feel like that kind of just two emotional games like that really just kind of wear them down, and they go to Louisville and just play absolutely flat. But shout out Louisville too. I mean, they played absolutely amazing. They played their butts off all game, and Notre Dame just kind of looked like they tired. After
They
two
did.
emotional games like that come out to the end to the last few minutes, last few seconds. Even to bring it down even more, they just look tired. I mean, Sam Hartman, 3 interceptions. I mean, they just look flat. They just look tired. They look drained from two emotional games. And I mean, this is kind of the spot where you would want maybe a cupcake team or a filler team there. Like an FCS team where you can kind of catch your breath and regroup. And unfortunately for them, they got to play a hot Louisville team on the road, and it turned out the way you kind of expected it to, with the tired, flat team. And they can right the ship. Notre Dame, they still got some good, they still have USC to play. um they can kind of get momentum back in themselves a little bit. But I mean, now they can just kind of focus on that and get their finish out strong. They're not going to make the playoff with 2 losses. That
No.
there's no way. But um you can still kind of you can kind of right the ship a little bit and regroup. But yeah, shut out Louisville. They I mean, they took advantage of a team like that's kind of dealing with that emotion. And they didn't play with their food. They saw the blood in the water, and they took advantage of it. And shout out to Louisville.
I like that you brought up how gassed and tired Notre Dame look. I think this is a very kind of off the wall comparison I'm going to make here. To me, I think the comparison we made for Notre Dame in that game was like a really good tennis player who's been on a heater and had, or like had a really good tournament, exhausted, played a few 3-set matches, whatever, and then they come back the next week. Say they lost in course, they come back the next week, win the finals. Grueling tournament though, so exhausted. And then they come out in the next tournament and they just lose to an inferior opponent early in the tournament, like first or
Yeah,
second round, no business losing. I think that's a fair comparison to be made here. I think a lot of the similarities are there. Lethargic, tired, not really locked in and focused, kind of reminiscing about last week.
yeah,
I think that was evident, and I can credit to Jawar Jordan. What a performance for him! I have been pretty outspoken about Louisville this season. I think they're a tad bit overvalued. I thought this was by far the best performance of the season, bar none. The defense has been impressive week after week too. They're stepping up and playing better. But Jawar Jordan and obviously their crop of receivers is so talented. But Jawar Jordan deserves a lot of credit, as does the offensive line. What they were able to do to get Jawar some really nice holes surrounded him. And for Jawar to just blaze through was very impressive considering the Notre Dame rushing defense that we have seen all season, especially against Ohio State and Duke. That was really encouraging to see from Louisville. I still think they're overvalued. I don't like any of their wins aside from the Notre Dame thing. The Georgia Tech one was they were kind of lucky to win. They failed to cover in the end. Bad beat. Indiana was a terrible, terrible result. NC State, they were also lucky to win, more so because of NC State's ineptitude than anything. But it's the back end of their schedule. Like they play Pitt this week on the road. There's nothing in this sport that suggests that Pitt should win. Don't be surprised if Pitt wins, though. Like another emotional letdown spot where a good team loses to an inferior opponent. But aside from that, like they still have Virginia Tech and Virginia on the schedule. They have Duke, who probably won't have Riley Leonard. You have Miami, who's just an absolute mess, coached by an idiot that we still have to get into. And they have Kentucky, who's extremely overrated. So it's like, for absolutely no reason at all, there's a path for Louisville to go undefeated and make the playoff. And that's insane. And think about, because unfortunately, I think Louisville in their bowl game or the playoff, I think they would just get smacked. And I like we only have like 15 minutes, so we'll move on quickly. Because we have to get to Cristobal, but Alabama against A&M, Alabama's defense just continues to be elite. Really good unit. Glad that they showed Isaiah Bond trust in him and got him the ball receiver and played a good receiver finally. I thought it was a decent. Dude, A&M is just annoying. Jimbo is. Jimbo's Jimbo. I think we leave it at that. UCLA Washington State, the Pac-12 Network game of the week that doesn't make sense why it's on Pac-12 Network. The UCLA defense ranks like top 3 in the country, and it's insane to think about because I genuinely don't think the secondary is very good. But the pass rush is so dominant, and is Latu and the rest of their pass rushers in the front 7. It's just completely overwhelming every offensive line they play, no matter if it's NC Central, if it's Utah or Washington State. So UCLA being able to generate this pass rush at a obscene level is scary to think about. And their offense is going to have its growing pains because they're with a true freshman quarterback and Dante Moore and everything. But why UCLA went unranked after losing to Utah is, well, again, one of the most idiotic things I think I could possibly see this season. I'm going to say that a lot. I don't understand what AP voters were doing. North Carolina just beat down Syracuse as expected. Good to see Tez Walker back. Shame on the NCAA for trying to flip this into a UNC's fault thing. Disgusting people there. Oregon State, Cal. I never thought that I would see an Oregon State game end 52-40. I never thought that there'd be 90 plus points in an Oregon State game this season. That's insane to think about. DJ went off 5 touchdown throws. I also like what the Beavers do, what Jonathan Smith does. Back-to-back games now. He has scripted the 3rd drive of the game to be true freshman quarterback Aiden Childs to come in. And what it's done both times now against Utah and Cal, it's given Childs reps. Who's going to be a star in the sport. And it has made DJ kind of angry and more motivated to play better. And both times since Childs comes in, DJ comes back looking for vengeance or something, just plays at this obscene level. So that's good to see. Ole Miss, Arkansas was, I don't know how to describe this one. It was just kind of a game.
Yeah, it was just that it was one of the games of the SEC. That's it.
It was. Well, look, I'm gonna skip over the Miami one because we won't talk about that one in great detail. But the other 2 top 25 games, Wyoming over Fresno State. Wyoming was always the better team to me than Fresno State. This result isn't surprising. Wyoming Air Force week 7 going to be a massive tilt. Winner needs to be ranked, and I could make an argument that the loser should also be ranked. LSU Missouri should still be ranked. Don't know why they're unranked. I thought they impressed in this game. Jay Daniels has played like one of the best players in the country. It's crazy to think about. He's worthy of Heisman candidacy. He comes back from a nasty hit. He takes idiotic hits every week. This hit was not a fault of his own at all. It's a late hit, dirty hit. And he comes back and just delivers dimes. He is playing at an elite level. He is the best quarterback in the SEC right now. It's words I never thought I'd think of uttering entering the season. He is ascending into a superstar in the sport.
Yeah. That was it. I was one of the other games I really watched. Every week I kind of gravitate towards a game where I kind of put on the screen. If Georgia isn't playing, or if one of the other teams that really intrigues me isn't playing, there's always a game that I kind of fixate to, and this was it. And for a while there, Missouri just looked like, I think they were 22-7 for a while. I mean, it looked like they were just gonna kind of carry that, and LSU 22 points in the fourth quarter just took that game away and snatched that out of Missouri's hands, and it ran away with it. So yeah, shout out LSU. We were looking at LSU having 3 losses, but before mid October, which was at the beginning of the season. You're looking at LSU being one of the favorites in the SEC, but they didn't. They ended up winning. So shout out them. Missouri, I think they're a lot better than I think a lot of people give them credit for. They're a really good team. One of the last remaining undefeated SEC teams before this week, and so they're a force to be reckoned with, and they have a big game against Georgia in a few weeks. I think that especially how last year's game turned out between Georgia and Missouri. I don't think Georgia's out of the water yet. In the SEC East, it's going to be a big game against Missouri. So shout out Missouri for sure.
Yeah, with LSU, the Major Burns pick 6 at the end. Okay, look, that was to cover, so Missouri bettors lose their tickets off the spread on that. Gang, you bad beat by a kid named Major Burns is just wild to think about. Like, you really got majorly burned. But I unfortunately think that interception, that pick 6, got into voters' minds and saw, oh, LSU won by 10. Well, see you, Missouri.
Yeah,
leave it at
lot of
that.
score. Solid score. AP voters is nothing but. I mean, I don't blame them per se by saying you can't watch every. You expect them to. They vote on Saturday. On Sunday afternoon is when the poll is released. You expect these voters to pay attention to every single game all Saturday, and then immediately turn their ballots in by Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. So I'd give them they do have to do a little bit of scoreboard watching, but you got to be better. You got to be better than that.
I give them 0 0 like room for error or whatever. I don't know. I give them, I get what you're saying, but also it is like a massive part of their job. Being an AP voter should carry a lot of respect. You're basically dictating who gets talked about week to week. You need to be watching the sport as a whole, like people like me and you do. Like, you have to be evaluating things. You have to be, your head needs to be on a swivel, eyes everywhere. Like, that's what you're asked to do. You need to do it. What needed to be asked of Mario Cristobal, finally getting into this game, one of the biggest blunders in college football history. People that want to say this isn't one of the worst losses in Miami history are tripping. This has to be top 2, along with what I'm blanking on the team they lost to, but they got smoked years ago, and it cost them a golden ticket essentially. But those 2 losses are up there.
Was it Notre Dame? I think it was Notre Dame.
Possibly.
It
My
might have been
mind's
Notre
just
Dame.
blanking on early life Liam stuff, but this loss is top 2 loss in Miami, Florida football history. This is because it shouldn't be a loss. Like, it's as simple as that. They also lost to an inferior Georgia Tech team. I feel like an idiot because going in after week 5, I didn't have Miami ranked. Going into week 6, coming off a bye, I had Miami ranked. I was like, oh, you know what? Looking into this more, I'm wrong. Their numbers are all good. They've looked good in the games I've watched still. Like, the run game's really nice. TBD's playing the best football of his career. Like, I will not, okay, maybe he hasn't, but he's playing like he should. And then their defense is nasty. Like, hey, gonna give Miami a lot of love. And then in the back of my head the whole time, I'm like, I have Georgia Tech coming. It would be very, very likely to go out and get smoked in this game, to lose for no reason. And that they did for literally no reason.
Yeah.
They didn't take a knee when there's no other words. They should never have been in that spot, but I mean, they didn't take it. The victory formation, and it's bit Cristobal in the butt before against Stanford. And yes, people want to say it's not the same situation, but still, like, hey, you kneel the ball twice and you have like 8, 9, 10 seconds left, and you could literally salt the game away with your imaginative brain. There's plenty of ways to do it. We saw Alabama do it with Milrow, just rolling out, throwing deep ball, easy money, whatever. Else take safety, whatever. It's whatever. Complete debauchery. It is literally a fireable offense with cause.
Yeah. You can almost say that they shouldn't have even been in that situation anyway. I mean, you're playing a Georgia Tech. You're playing a Georgia Tech team that lost to Bowling Green, and then not even just lose to Bowling Green. They got demolished by Bowling Green. Um, the week before. So, you can almost say, I mean, not even almost, you should definitely say they shouldn't even been in that situation. But I didn't watch this game, and I saw people talking about it, on online, and I kind of went back and I was kind of watching it, and I'm like, what? Then I was like, well, what's the context? I mean, maybe they had timeouts, maybe they were going to get the ball back anyway, and they're just trying to like, no, they had no timeouts. Georgia Tech had 0 timeouts left. There's literally no reason to run a play whatsoever. You take a knee, the game's over. Like, it was unbelievable. I was like, wait a minute, like I really thought there was something that I was missing that made sense. Like, wait, like there's something going on here. Like they wouldn't just do that, but no, they really just did that. Like, it's unbelievable. And anytime you make a mistake like that, it always comes back to bite you. Um, it reminds me. It reminds me of as a Falcons fan, I have a lot of those situations that I've witnessed in my life. It reminds me of a week a few years ago against Dallas, where Dallas kicked an onside kick, and inexcusably the recovering team doesn't have to wait for the ball to go 10 yards. Only the kicking team does. And the Falcons players just kind of rallied around the ball and were just waiting for it to go 10 yards for some stupid reason. And then finally did. And then when they did, Dallas jumped on it, got the ball, marched on the field, kicked the game winning field goal. And I'm like, how do you not coach that? Like, that is such an easy play to make. Like, it's unexcusably idiotic how, like, there's no reason why that play happened. It's football 101. There's absolutely no reason why that should happen. If you're a Division I college football coach who's getting paid millions of dollars to coach, a football game, there is absolutely no excusable reason to allow that to happen. And, like, this is, it's shocking, and it's shocking. And, I don't know. I don't know. We see what Brian Fuentes is doing with the Penn State defense. Like, you look back on that, was it really the right decision to make?
I just feel like Cristobal has always been overrated. I think that yeah, Oregon and Miami, I feel like he has been hated from a game management and just. I feel like he's been loved for his recruiting and everything. I feel like both fan bases have not liked his in-game coaching at all. I mean, it makes sense. My memory could be fuzzy here and incorrect, but I feel like in Madden, I have heard at the end of the game when someone comes out in the victory formation, I feel like I've heard an announcer in Madden say, like, it's the one play in everyone's playbook. Victory formation. How sweet it is. And it's not in the used play. It's not in Cristobal's DNA for whatever reason. And this isn't the first time that it's not the first time. It's obviously not because we saw it at Stanford, Oregon, we saw it at Georgia Tech, Miami, but it's not the first time, like, or the second time, or the third time that I've seen this buffoonery, because I've seen the end of Miami games under Cristobal, and I've just kind of like, they'll be on like a Thursday night, like the MTSU game, I believe it was, and I had the under, and like the number was close, so I was still watching at the end, and he's just running the ball with like a minute left, and MTSU's got no timeouts, and it's just like, you're up 40, just take a knee and get out of there. And then you could think, well, at least it's the walk-ons or in there, the bench, and it's like, no, because he plays a running back by committee, and these are still running backs that play every week, and it's like, I don't understand it. It's not the first, second, third time that I've seen a Miami team under Cristobal just not kneel the ball. He wants to run the ball for whatever reason. I don't get it. At some point, it was going to cost him. There's someone even tweeted out like 4 different games this season where Miami's just run the ball at the end of the game for no reason. The game's out of reach. It's just like, It's like Henry Parrish, who's their RB1, is carrying the ball with 4 seconds left in a game that's out of reach. It doesn't make sense. Cheney had an excellent game this week. Feel terrible for him. I feel terrible for Max Lee. I feel terrible for every play on Miami because none of them deserve to lose this game, despite the fact it wasn't Miami's best effort. They should have blown Georgia Tech out. Doesn't matter. They deserve to win this game, and they lost because of coaching malpractice. It's as simple as that. And I mean, hey, there's nothing else to say. That is one of the most disgusting, inexcusable losses I have ever seen. Again, is fireable with cause, in my opinion. It is enough to make me say there's no reason that Mario Cristobal should ever get a head coaching job at the Power 5 level again until he proves himself and proves that he doesn't need that he's learned. Go to the Group of 5, go to the FCS, go to the NFL as like a quality control coach or something. I don't care. It needs to be drilled into his brain that he has learned from his mistakes, because there's a whole lot more mistakes than just failing to do QB knees at the end of the game.
He's the next Alabama quality control coach.
There it is. Season. Offensive analyst at Alabama.
Yeah, offensive analyst at Alabama. Yeah.
My goodness. It is, I don't know, it's just kind of disgusting to think about and talk about. It makes you sick to your stomach that people like that have jobs in this world where they again, it's cliche now. I think you could say this is cliche. Madden players have better clock management skills than them. It's not even close. Pro Madden players, maybe casual ones too.
Yeah, no, but I've played plenty of Madden online games where they, I don't care. It doesn't matter if the score is 30-6. They're out there slinging it no matter what, and I've seen some comebacks because of that. The stubbornness doesn't go away. So. But yeah, Madden players, my 2-year-old son could probably hit random buttons and not lose that game like Cristobal did.
I'm gonna leave it at this because I know we gotta get you out of here, and I apologize for not getting to playing unranked games. For those who want to listen, I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave it at this. If the NCAA video game that's coming out next summer, if the QB kneel is in Miami's playbook, they have made a mistake, and the game is every bit as bad as Madden and every other sports game that is out. The kneel cannot be in Cristobal's playbook. It just can't. I'm going to leave it at that. Brian, thank you for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it. Good one for the Braves. Nice of you to see a heroic effort like that.
Yeah,
that was very good for you, and I thank you all for listening. Really appreciate it. Again, please make sure to like and subscribe. Helps us go a long way, and we'll be back in a few hours for week 7. It starts on Tuesday, ends on Saturday. Can't wait. We'll be back for a week 7 preview coming up. Thank you again.